So, hi Nat, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And this weekend is our virtual Amdani event. So it's great to hear about all the adventures that you've had and your experience in guiding. So just so everybody knows, you're a military doctor and a girl guiding leader and has been in guiding since a young age. And you also led the British Army's Ice Maiden expedition, which was the first all-female team to cross Antarctica using muscle power alone, which I think sounds very impressive. So while completing this expedition, you spent 62 days on the ice and covered 1,700 kilometers, which seems like a massive feat. So now that I've said that back to you, how does that make you feel?
I suppose it's just like, that's just one of those things that I did. And I often feel like it's not really me when you're talking about that.
Yeah, because I suppose when you do these things, you just kind of done it, and that's that. You've done it and you've experienced it. You don't always look at it from like a statistical point of view to say, oh, it's this many miles and this many days. But it blows my mind that you've done that, because you're just a normal person, but it seems like an extraordinary feat. So girls and volunteers who are like watching this now be like, oh wow, that's amazing. But do you think that anybody can do these sort of adventurous things, or is it just something that you're born with, or what do you think?
So one of the things when I talk about Ice Maiden is that we're just ordinary women doing extraordinary things, like you say, the things that we do in girl guiding, everyone that's listening has done something extraordinary within meetings all the time, and actually going from being a brownie to going to be a guide, to be a ranger, a young leader and an adult leader. There's all these amazing things that we do within guiding that we just think are normal. But if you try and get another kid to go and make a wood fire and cook on it, that's like amazing for others. And we do that all the time in guides, don't we? So I think Ice Maiden was just a very slow step progression of doing these things that you just see as your normal day. And then by the end of it, after 61 days in Antarctica, I was blessed to be able to say that I'd called it my home for 61 days and traveled 1,700 kilometers with 5 other women pulling our homes in our sledges behind us.
See, that's just amazing. But I know what you mean. Like, what I go and tell people that, oh, I've done this for guiding, but that's just a normal everyday part of what we do in guiding. But to other people, it's extraordinary. So your feat seems extraordinary to me because it's not something I do on the everyday. So I've been told that you went to Oman recently. So could you tell us a bit about what you did there, what sort of adventures you had?
Yeah, so I went to Oman, something called Yalla Go, and Yalla is Arabic for go. So we were like, go, go, come on, let's go. And the idea behind Yalla Go was me and a lady, an Omani lady called Anisa Al Raisi, who was the first Omani person to go to the North Pole. We met when I was out in Oman with work in the British Army a couple of years ago, and we thought we'd cross Oman in a straight line. So Oman has some little islands, so we had to kayak across some seas, and I'm scared of water. Like the sea is something that scares me. So I was facing my fear head on in a kayak with another lady. We were kayaking in solo kayaks next to each other, supporting each other. And then we then crossed the flatlands and the salt flats of Oman, and the deserts and the sand dunes and the mountains. As a pair, we had cars supporting us the whole way around. And unfortunately, I got injured, so I never managed to finish the challenge. But during COVID, to be able to get that off the ground was amazing. And we worked with some people to have a social media presence to encourage kids to get outside and do their own little challenges. Yalla Go was all about crossing Oman in a straight line, but getting kids to go outside and hike and enjoy the nature that they live in and around, basically doing girl guides on a bigger scale.
It's interesting when you were talking about like you had the support of each other, and obviously when you did Ice Maiden there was a group of you, and then the pair of you did Oman. Do you think it's important to have that support network around you when you're doing these adventurous activities?
Yeah, I always think you can if you want to travel far, travel together. If you want to go fast, go alone. And experiences are so much better when you share them, aren't they? If I look back on the things that I have enjoyed most in life, it's going on that run with a friend, or going out on an adventure with somebody else, so we can both stop and go, wow, look at that view. Or we have an epic trying to light a fire in the pouring rain, as often it does rain in Wales, doesn't it? All those things are so much more richer by sharing with others, and Girl Guides is all about that, isn't it? And hopefully people on the virtual camp are able to share with each other the fun that they're doing, because everything's better shared.
Yeah, and I think also when you share these experiences with people, like you have something that bonds you together. So like I went on international myself, and the people that I went with, like I now run a Rainbow League unit with one of them, and like we have that shared experience, and it's amazing to be able to talk to someone about it, and you have those shared memories as well. So I think that's something that Guiding provides, is like it's like a network of people for you to share these different things with. Yeah, I think it's really quite amazing, and yeah, it's amazing what you do as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I watched your TEDx talk, was really quite interesting how you talked about finding your spark. Can you tell us a bit about how you started in guiding and how it's impacted who you are today? Has it provided you with skills or a certain set of ideas? Do you want to explain a bit about what guiding means to you in your life now?
Yeah, I'm super proud to be a girl guide leader now, and I'm sure we all had that moment when we just moved to high school and it wasn't really cool to be in guiding, and you kind of really wanted to stay, but there was a few of you that would whisper, "Do you still go to guides?" And it was always a bit. But I look back and I'm really glad that I stayed in guiding, and I would kind of really try and encourage the girls as they go from primary to high school to stay, because there's so much you can gain from it. So yeah, I was a brownie Blue Peter seeing the rainbows, and they had these really cool tabards, and I remember saying to my mum, why can't I be a rainbow? And obviously I didn't realize that there was an age thing, so I was too old, so I never made it to rainbows, but I made it to brownies. And then I did guides, and then whilst at university I studied in Cardiff. I helped at a local unit there, and then because of the military we move around a lot, so I've helped at various local girl guides whenever I've been able to, but with deployments to various operations around the globe with the been able to do guiding. But if it wasn't for guiding, I definitely wouldn't have done, I wouldn't have crossed Antarctica, I wouldn't have gone to Oman, because it's those activities. We were from like a proper little country girl guiding unit in the Midlands. I'm sure very many of the units around Wales are the same, where our leader kind of takes us kayaking, we cook on wood fires, we did all this great outdoor stuff, and it's really there that enthused me, to get outside and do more of these activities. And you said you yourself have been on an international camp, and I think that was like the making. Where did you go on your international?
So I went to Zambia in 2019, for just over 2 weeks we went. So we worked on a charity project called the Book Bus. So we were going around to different schools and doing lots of different activities around reading. So that was really cool. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And it's these rich experiences you get in guiding that you don't get in other youth organisations, and I think that's something that we forget often in guiding.
Yeah, and also it kind of it sparks inspiration with you, because you might try something once in like a unit, or you might go on camp and do something, go, well actually I really love that, and now you like pursue it, and that becomes another passion of yours, and it allows you to try all these different things, and it's really amazing. And I quite often say to Nia, my leader, who we both went to Zambia together, that I'd love to be able to take girls and do that trip and provide that experience for someone else, because guiding's done so much for me. So as a leader, I love being able to take more. Obviously I can't take rainbows to Zambia, but we do lots of exciting things that are age appropriate, but it's that given experience and like the experiences that you've had as well. I think that's really amazing. So talking about international, so you went on international self, didn't you, with guiding?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that and the process of how you got there, and what was your favorite thing about it?
Yeah, so I always get the years wrong, and I get told off by various people when I talk about this. So my first international, turns out, was what's called Unity. I think it was 98, showing my age. Unity 98, which was the county. So I'm originally from Staffordshire, so Staffordshire County's international camp. So I remember, because I was quite a sporty kid, I got asked, do you want to be the person that competes for our sub camp on this inflatable running covered in soap thing? And that was like my main memory of that camp. And also we got to have fish and chips one night from a van, so I remember that. And then a couple of years later, my guide leader said you should go to selection. So I went to international selection, and I was blown away when I got a phone call saying, do you want to go to Russia? And it was like, yeah, of course. And then me and my parents were talking about how we'd have to get loads of warm clothes, because we always thought Russia was really cold, but it turns out in the summer it's really hot. And so we went to this massive international jamboree called Volgograd. and I had the most inspirational leader called Liz Hurst. She always tells me off when I mention her name, because somebody always contacts her afterwards and says, oh, I didn't know you went to Russia. Anyway, so Liz took us to Russia. There was a group of us from the Midlands, and like you say about the girls from Zambia, I'm still in touch with those girls. In fact, we had a Zoom during COVID to catch up. And then after that, I went on international with half of that team as staff to a camp in Switzerland. And then the year after, I went on a camp on my own to staff again in Finland. And then I was assistant leader to Liz in Russia. And then I took my own group after running the service team for Unity 1 year. We then took a group, my friend and I, to Barbados. And now I'm just working with Staffordshire to potentially take a group of leaders on some leadership development back to Finland in the Arctic.
Oh, it all sounds very exciting. You've done lots and lots of international. I've got to say, I went to Switzerland with my unit as a division, and then once I went to Zambia, you kind of catch the bug, and you want to keep going and going to different places, but also doing it with Girlguiding is such a unique experience because you're sharing it with all these people, and especially, so we met a guide leader at one of the schools that we went to. And so we went for a whole week, and every day she would turn up in a different guiding piece of uniform. And it was so exciting to share that with someone who's completely across the other side of the globe. But you're doing this amazing thing, but being able to share it with people with who do similar things, but just in a different country. So I think that's really the amazing part of Girlguiding doing international, is these shared experiences when you have this common value, even though you live completely opposite ends of the world.
Sorry, because you mentioned what does guiding mean to me, and I think actually you just hit the nail on the head there about the ethos and the Girlguiding law. We all have that common belief and that kind of common framework that we all stick to. So when you go abroad, no matter your skin color, creed, whatever you believe in, we've all got that common goal behind us, so we can all then form that bond.
Yeah, it always used to because of where we live and where Girlguiding's where Bron is, our Girlguiding house, it's quite difficult to get to. Yeah. So when I started going to events as a ranger, I used to always get the train down, and even though I was only 14, 15, my mum didn't mind putting me on this train to go down things. She's like, it's okay, because I know there's a group of guiding people on the other end. Even if I've never met them before, she knew that it was such a shared thing, and the sort of people who guiding attracts are such nurturing and caring, and they have so much experience to impart on other people that Mum's like, yeah, off you go on the train, it'll be fine, I know who's on the other end. And when she sent me off to Zambia with a leader she probably only met once, who lives down in South Wales, she's like, it's fine, because it's such a shared ideas and ethos. So yeah, so I always find it quite inspirational to meet different guiding people and learn from them, because they have so much information to impart on you, and all this experience that they have, and it's always really interesting. So we have another question. So last year has been very challenging for everybody, obviously with COVID. We'll start to forget about that soon, hopefully. And there's been a lot of talk about mental health, especially within young people. Can you tell us the sort of things that you did to stay positive and motivated while in lockdown, when you couldn't, with guiding, we couldn't meet face to face, we couldn't go see our friends like we normally would?
COVID and the pandemic, definitely we didn't see that coming, did we? And I think it's been a really good opportunity. I obviously COVID is bad, but you've got to take that what is thrown at you and turn it into a positive. And I think it has been a really good opportunity for us to look at how can we make guiding more inclusive. Those people that maybe don't have the best travel ability can still come on a Zoom meeting, and equally of course, there are those that don't have access to the internet, so then we can still send packs out to them, and they can send them back to us. So we've been able to do Zoom, and as soon as we were allowed, we went straight back to face-to-face outdoors, because we live in I live in the Brecon Beacons, and the parents were really supportive, and we just put raincoats on everybody, and whatever the weather in September, we went out and did adventure hikes, we did treasure hunts, all sorts of fun stuff. I played hide and seek in the dark once. I won't be doing that again, I don't think. That had a few challenges of health and safety, but it was fun anyway. And for me, I love running, getting outdoors and running in the hills is like my form of meditation. It's my form of getting out. And I was really lucky. I've got a neighbour that's also a runner, and we became a little household and would run at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning. We'd both be outside with our trainers on and the dog, and we'd go up the mountains. And that was definitely my lifeline of having that regular routine. And that really kept me sane. And I found my new love for baking, although I'll share a little baking story. Everyone's like, oh, you must be like, you know, superwoman, you've done all this stuff. Well, I'm not very good at baking. I'm not very good at housework. Fortunately, you can't see the rest of my house. But the baking, I decided I was going to make this date and malt loaf. Found it, I had lots of dates to use up, and I didn't have any malt extract when I got to that part of the recipe. And I thought, oh, I've got Marmite. I think they're the same. I think they're similar. So I made a date and Marmite cake. It turns out malt extract is made from barley and sugar, and Marmite, as you might know, is quite savoury. So then I gave I left a couple of slices to an old lady neighbour around the corner, and she came knocking on my door a couple of days later and told me that it was an interesting flavour and that she didn't require any more of my cake.
But at least you persevered and just tried to find an alternative ingredient rather than just giving up. I've got to say, I was
halfway through.
Well, if you're halfway through, you've got to keep going. Maybe next time you'll check your ingredients before you start. But at least it turned out, even if it didn't taste the best. My mum, I was much of a nightmare in lockdown because I did do lots of baking and cooking, but I took up I could already make bread, but I was like, I've got so much time, that means I can leave it to prove and do it. So there was just constant flour all over the kitchen. I was like, hang on, it's just got to leave here for 2 hours. I'll come back later. No, so I do lots of baking, but luckily my mum is a chef, so I have very good guidance and I've been taught very well. So I don't have many disasters. The disasters happen when I'm at uni, when I don't have my mum to watch over me. But yeah, so sometimes she gets a picture of like some burnt food that the oven's just a bit too hot on one side. It's okay.
And what did you do during lockdown?
So I read lots and lots of books, because I really love doing it. So I was happy to have the time to do it. I spent lots of time cooking and baking, with my mum, so she's works in a school, so she was in half the time and then not for the other. And we did go outside as much as we can, try to go on walks. So we're very lucky to live like opposite a farm. So it was really nice to be able to go outside and not feel like you're stuck. But yeah, I just enjoyed not having to do as much as I usually did, because I stopped halfway through my first year of uni. So I suddenly gone from doing all these lectures, all these work, to then just doing nothing. So it was a shock at first, but after the first few weeks, it did start to get a bit boring, and I had to do some more stuff. But yeah, but we've been, like you were saying, you found the Zoom really helpful with doing guiding online. So Nia, my other leader, she lives in South Wales and I live in the north. So we were actually able to carry on our rainbows, even though neither of us were in the same part of the country. So that was really helpful as well, especially when we go home now at the end of uni. We'll still be able to carry on for our rainbows who normally wouldn't have leaders, because we both Zoom off home. But yeah, so it's really well. It's exceptional circumstances, but I feel like in a lot of ways it's brought the best out in lots of people, especially in guiding. People have thought of new ways to do guiding, thought of new activities, how to adapt it. And I found it really quite fun trying to work out how to teach a rainbow, how to do something on Zoom when I can't quite show them and then explain to the parents. So it's tested my skills, but it's really been enjoyable. So some fun questions now. Right, so if you can invite 5 people who inspired you to a campfire and spend a weekend camping with them, who would it be and where would you go?
Oh, can it be any 5 people in the world?
Any 5 people in the world.
So I'd have the Dalai Lama, because I think he's an absolute legend, like the religious guru of Buddhism. And you know what? I'd probably just take some of my guiding friends. So Liz Hurst, the lady that took me to Russia, I'd have her because she's hilarious. Laura Castillo, one of the ladies again that I went to, she was my assistant leader in Barbados, and we went on service team together years and years ago. So it'd be nice to catch up with them. And then I guess some famous people, you know, the Queen, I think she'd be like a pretty good legend actually. And although she's getting on a bit, I think she'd be pretty cool to take camping. So that's 4. And my 5th one, I think I'd take Chris Packham, the nature man from Springwatch, because he like knows all the different birds and stuff. And I think that's such an amazing talent to be able to hear a bird and tell you what bird it is singing and stuff. So I could learn from him. And where would I go? Well, the best place in the world, the Brecon Beacons, because I love it here. I can't tell you where exactly because it's a secret camping spot.
Well, that sounds like a very entertaining campfire, I've got to say. And I think the Queen will be okay because she still rides a horse. So I'm sure that she could go camping. Yeah. We'll
obviously get her a posh bed.
Yeah, maybe a bit of glamping.
Yeah. We'll go in a yurt.
Yeah. Definitely some interesting conversations would be had though with the Queen, Chris Packham and the Dalai Lama. It's definitely a mix, but I bet it'd be some really good conversations. So the last question
it would either be a success or a flop.
Yeah, it could go either way, I've got to say. Because I wonder if the Queen would have to bring an entourage with her, or can the Queen just go? Oh, so you'll be laying down the law saying it's the Queen has to come alone or she can't come at all.
I could be her bodyguard, eh?
There we go. We've got it sorted. Yeah, so my last question for you is, if you could go back in time, what piece of advice would you give to your 15-year-old self?
Oh gosh, my 15-year-old self. So I said already, I love running. And the reason I got into running was because I saw Paula Radcliffe set the world record for the ladies at the London Marathon one year and decided there and then I was going to run a marathon. And I remember running along the canal in these O'Neill trainers. They were like fashion trainers and I thought they were the bee's knees and they were amazing. But I think I would tell my 15-year-old self not to run in those shoes because they probably weren't really very good for my body. And then I don't think I'd tell myself anything else other than like the advice I've been given anyway, but it was always, you only regret the things that you don't do. So when you get given those opportunities and you think, oh, shouldn't I, like whenever I get offered an opportunity now, I try and say yes at all times to make sure that you only regret the things that you turn down. Of course there are things you have to turn down, but you only regret the things that you don't do.
I like that. A bit of fashion and practicality advice with the shoes, and then also some inspiration advice. I think covered all bases there for your 15-year-old self.
Alice, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been a great pleasure and great fun. Hope everybody has a great time at the rest of the Amdani camp.